Oh,
Again, thank you very much, friends, for joining us tonight. This is the first time that we have Mr. Tony Martinez here. It's my honor to thank him and welcome him to this session. Tony was born in England to Spanish parents. He became a Baha'i in North Wales and was a Baha'i pioneer in Mexico for 20 years. He studied engineering, education, and astronomy and works as high school teacher in Southwestern Ontario. The subject he will deal with tonight is the way of peace, uniting humanity along the path of oneness. Thank you again, and we will start. Louise, please.
Ayarato taringi aju sohothan gonsotan. Engayo hutsi. The janikniyo taringi. Ayaklanaki akatka. Dawani gitu. O dananmi. Sothan. That's in the Northern Shoshone language from the Yukon.
Сотвори во мне чистое сердце, о мой Боже, и совесть спокойно во мне возроди, о надежда моя. Духом мощи Твоей утверди меня в деле Твоем, о возлюбленный мой. Светом славы Твоей укажи мне стезю Твою, о Ты, цель моих устремлений. Силою Твоей неодолимой мощи вознеси меня к небесам святости Твоей, о начало моего бытия. Дуновением вечности Твоей возрадуй меня, о мой Боже. Да навеют на меня безмятежность, вечные напевы Твои, о мой спутник. Да оградят меня сокровища Твоего древнего лика ото всего, кроме Тебя, о мой Господин. И да принесет мне радость, благая весть об откровении нетленной сущности Твоей, о Ты, из явных явнейший, сокровеннейший из сокрытых. Баха'у'лláh.
O thou kind Lord, thou hast created all humanity from the same stock. Thou hast decreed that all shall belong to the same household. In thy holy presence, they are all thy servants, and all mankind are sheltered beneath the tabernacle. All have gathered together at thy table of bounty. All are illumined through the light of thy providence. O God, thou art kind to all. Thou hast provided for all. Thou shelter all. Conferest life upon all. Thou hast endowed each and all with talents and faculties, and all are submerged in the ocean of thy mercy. O thou kind Lord, unite all. Let the religions agree and make the nations one, so that they may see each one as one family, and the whole earth as one home. May they all live together in perfect harmony. O God, raise aloft the banner of the oneness of mankind. O God, establish the most great peace. Cement thou, O God, the hearts together. O thou kind Father, God, gladden our hearts through the fragrance of thy love. Brighten our eyes through the light of thy guidance. Delight our ears to the melodies of thy word, and shelter us all in the stronghold of thy provision. Thou art the mighty and powerful. Thou art the forgiving and thou art the one who overlooks the shortcomings of all mankind. Abdu'l-Bahá.
Tony, please.
Thank you very much. So I will just take a few moments here while I connect things up. I have been practicing to put my image in a little corner. So hopefully it's just coming up. Here we go. And it's just loading. So I apologize for that. So while that is going, I think I would like to. It just says preparing slides. Oh, there we go. All right. Oh, look, and there I am. So that seems to be working well. So it's talking about the way of peace. I think you can tell that my cat wants attention, but I will try. I'm sorry about if you can hear that, and it's a bit distracting. But we will move on. The way of peace. What I'd like to talk about is that twin path, those twin processes that are moving towards the most great peace, as spoken of by Bahá'u'lláh, which are the process within the Baha'i faith, the work that we're doing among ourselves, and in the work that we do with people around us and trying to build communities, and separately and influenced one by the other is the motion of the overall society moving towards peace. So let's see. Okay, so I'd like, as Farouz mentioned, I want to start by, well, as an astronomer, I do like when I have an opportunity to talk about the solar system and to look back from space and to consider our Earth. And this is the pale blue dot. Carl Sagan, who was very popular in talking about astronomy and had the first Cosmos series, suggested that Voyager 1 should take this photograph, which was taken back in 1990. And it just sees, there's this tiny dot in the distance, little blue dot. And that's our Earth, everything that we have ever done, all our history, all our difficulties, all our hopes, all our dreams, everything comes from that little blue dot. And I like to think about our planet and our home and how we can learn to occupy it and care for it and live in peace together. I think these are aspects that as science and technology have developed, they have moved forward the process of the integration of humanity. When I was studying, I was in my department, and there was a wonderful book that came out called The Earth is But One Planet, and it had this photograph on the front. And that was the first book that I ever read about Baha'i faith. I was at a talk recently in London, Ontario, given by Jack Schmitt, who was the first scientist to go out in space and visit the moon. Mostly had been military people. And he coming back from the moon, he looked out and the sun was behind them, and he saw this beautiful image of the Earth, and he had a high resolution camera, and he took this image. And it was the first image we ever had of the earth as one. And it's quite beautiful. It is a beautiful world that we have, that we want to care for, and we want to care for each other and all of us who live there. I didn't mention an acknowledgement, but I think it is customary. I have a Mohawk friend who taught me that before any speech, it's the words that come before all others, and they're words of thanks. Thanks to our Creator, to God, and thanks to the people who came before us. And of course, those of us who live here in North America, actually in native people called Turtle Island, owe a great debt of thanks to those who first welcomed the first settlers, taught us how to live and survive the winters of Canada. So this, I live in an area that was and still is populated by Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the Atawandaran. So I wanted to mention that. As we move forward, I want to just say, well, why have any hope of peace? You know, we as Baha'is, we believe in it because Baha'u'lláh tells us it is so. And Baha'u'lláh came to fulfill many promises that were given in the Bible and in all the world's religions. So I'll just mention a few, primarily from the Bible, but we know that all major world religions spoke of the coming of one who would bring about peace. And they speak of that. There is not time to do this. So as we go forward, I'll just have to be, you know, it's like going through a buffet and trying not to eat too much. You know, you just choose a few things that I've chosen to share. So in Psalm, from the Psalms, the Lord gives strength to his people. The Lord blesses his people with peace. And from Isaiah, the following passages are all from Isaiah. It's very uplifting, very beautiful. And he shall judge among the nations and shall rebuke many people. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. A nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Clearly talking of a time that is not yet with us, that we long for, that we pray for. I think my main message here is that we need to believe in this. We need to work towards peace and not despair when wars, rumors of wars build up, because I know what is happening around the world is very dark and people are suffering. And the worst thing we can do is to despair and give up and lose hope, because that hope, if we cannot fulfill the promises that have been given to us, then it will be our children. And we must make sure that that vision of a world of peace is strong and lives on. And the words of the past, but especially the words of the present, of the current revelation of Baha'u'lláh, gives us inspiration. But I want to mention also other things that strengthen that vision, that it isn't just an idyllic view. It will come to pass. It will come. So for us, a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. He will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. And though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love for you will not be shaken, for my covenant of peace, nor my covenant of peace be removed, says the Lord who has compassion on you. The promises are firm, they are there. the growing global awareness, we can look anywhere. I've chosen a few leaders of thought. There's a wonderful man, Teilhard de Chardin, who was a French Jesuit and a paleontologist, and he spoke of the sacredness of the universe. He spoke of the universal Christ, of Christ as the word that comes and guides us, and he together with Vernadsky, who was Russian Ukrainian philosopher, spoke of the noosphere. So that's this. Can I signal there? I don't know if that comes up on your screen or not. But the noosphere is the sphere of reason, and Teilhard de Chardin spoke of that as a spiritual union, which is our destiny as we become more aware that we are all interrelated and have an understanding of the oneness of the planet. And Vernadsky spoke of the noosphere as a reason uniting us into one sphere, to one as we understood each other and as our understanding became one. He saw it more as an intellectual sphere, but it's interesting. You know, we talk about the physical sphere, the sphere of the hydrosphere, the biosphere, and this is another concept which talks about this movement towards a planetary level society. Toynbee, who spoke about the rise and fall of civilizations, had this vision of what causes civilizations to rise, what causes them to collapse, and spoke that we are moving to a post-nationalistic time, a phase of cooperation and peace. And he sees that as a major trend, social trend. Marshall McLuhan, who spoke of famously said the medium is the message, spoke of the effects of mass media and spoke of the global village. We know, of course, there's the idea of the Gaia principle, which is the idea of the planet also as a living species, as one thing. And Berners-Lee, who developed the web, brought about a big step in the creation of sharing information and knowledge. Of course, all these means also require transformation of hearts so that they're used for positive benefit. Well, the Bab declared his mission in 1844, and I can't speak very much on this, and I'm sure many of you already know details about his declaration. What I want to mention is that in his message of oneness, in his promise that his message would reach the entire world, his followers were amazed, and they knew it would take weeks going over the mountains, even just to go into a nearby country. It was hard to imagine how this would happen. Yet we know that on that same day of the 23rd of May, a message was sent between Washington and Baltimore by Morse. And that message said, "Behold what God hath wrought." On the same day that the Bab declared his mission to Mullah Hussein, was the same day that the earth entered the electronic age of electronic communication, where communication was no longer physically carried on horseback or on a pigeon, or there's a message that had to be sent. It could now be transported at the speed of light wherever a wire could be placed. So this was a radical transformation, and rapidly the wires were put under oceans and between nations. And so the beginning of the 19th century is totally different to the end of the 19th century. Also, by this time, steam is developing, all kinds of technological advancements. The world is rapidly changing, so that the physical conditions required for establishing the world peace and the oneness between nations are coming about. But clearly, it requires a change in our hearts also. There were peace congresses around that time, and national peace societies were set up. Even some of the leaders of state would say, well, maybe this makes more sense if we had peace. After 19 tumultuous years, Bahá'u'lláh announced his mission in Baghdad in 1863. He was a prisoner for 40 years, and in the 70s, he sent messages to kings and rulers. These are many of the individual messages I've just listed up here. The information is available, the tablets to the kings and rulers of Baha'u'lláh. He also wrote to the presidents of the American republics. He wrote to religious leaders and announced his coming while he was a prisoner of the Sultan, the Ottoman Empire, and the Sultan in Acre, and when he was prisoner in other places before that. And I'm going to include a few quotes because this is the powerful word that has been sent by God, fulfilling these promises that the time has come for the established peace. O ye, the elected representatives of the people in every land, take ye counsel together, and let your concern be only for that which profiteth mankind, and benefiteth the condition thereof. If ye be of them that heed carefully. So there was some misprints there, which I apologize for. So some of the rulers were very disrespectful. Napoleon III got the benefit of a second letter because he was so disrespectful on the first, and Baha'u'lláh spoke of his imminent downfall, though he was very powerful and had just had a great victory over the Prussian Empire. He wrote in powerful letter to the Kaiser Wilhelm, and said, do not ignore this, take heed, because he says, I see the Rhine flowing with blood, and I see it a second time, which many people have felt clearly predicted the loss, German losses during the First and Second World War. Queen Victoria seems to have had a more positive response to the message she received, and she was reported to have said, "If this is from God, no harm can come from it." She said it. Sorry, if this is from God, it will endure. If it is not from God, no harm can come from it. As parts from the messages that were sent, the time has come when the imperative necessity for the holding of a vast and all-embracing assemblage of men will be universally realized. The rulers and kings of the earth must needs attend it, and participating in its deliberations must consider such ways and means as will lay the foundations of the world's great peace amongst men. Such a peace demandeth that the great powers should resolve, for the sake of the tranquility of the peoples of the earth, to be fully reconciled among themselves. Should any king take up arms against another, all should unitedly arise and prevent him. If this is done, the nations of the world will no longer require any armaments, except for the purpose of preserving the security of their realms and maintaining internal order within their territories. So you see how very clearly Baha'u'lláh is explaining the principle of collective security, which was attempted at various times in man's history, the League of Nations, and currently it's a central point of the United Nations, but it is not carried out because of the veto and political interests. So the ideas are being established to carry it out and protect the well-being of humanity, that the will is not yet there. So when that was not accepted, Baha'u'lláh wrote, "Now that ye have refused the most great peace, hold ye fast to this, the lesser peace, that happily ye may in some degree better your own condition and that of your dependents." And he extols, "Be united, O kings of the earth, for thereby will the tempest of discord be stilled amongst you, and your peoples find rest, if ye be of them that comprehend." And again, many places he mentions, "If any one amongst you take up arms against another, rise ye all against him, for this is naught but manifest justice." And the writings are full of the need of combining peace with justice. The Concert of Europe, a number of meetings which were supposedly peace conferences, but not, that was primarily the powerful nations were trying to safeguard their own self-interest, but would agree, and agreements were made between nations. This was an initial stage prior to World War I. One of the things that did come out of this age, the latter part of the 19th century, was of course the Red Cross and the Geneva Conventions, and there's been a lot of good that has come from this. Henry Dunant was shocked by the horror of the Battle of Solferino, and he organized volunteers and he established a code. They would go out and they would serve irrespective from which army. Certainly it was Italy, and I believe it was France, and it was whoever needed the help most. And so they established the concept of humanitarian aid and a code which was ratified in the Geneva Convention. So these concepts go in parallel, perhaps sometimes influenced in some way. The ideas gradually are spreading throughout human society. Baha'u'lláh again saying, "The well-being of mankind, its peace and security are unattainable unless and until its unity is firmly established. This unity can never be achieved so long as the counsels which the pen of the Most High hath revealed are suffered to pass unheeded." And among those teachings, of course, are the oneness of humanity, the oneness of mankind, the oneness of the world religions, and how accepting this and turning to God, we can change our hearts and so change the world in which we live in. Baha'u'lláh passed away in 1892. Baha'u'lláh, Abdu'l-Bahá, was the other wonderful, his birth was one of the other wonderful things that happened on that very special night when the Bab declared his mission and the electronic age appeared began. Abdu'l-Bahá, the perfect exemplar, the beloved servant of Bahá'u'lláh, and the one who we turn to follow his example, was born. He wrote, he guided, he interpreted, he helped establish the Shrine of the Bab, he developed Baha'is communities, he received pilgrims from the West, from the East, and he would write continuously to encourage these communities. And as soon as he was set free, he was able to travel first to Europe and later to North America in 1911 and 1912. Abdu'l-Bahá said, "Peace must first be established among individuals until it leadeth in the end to peace amongst nations. Wherefore, O ye Baha'is, strive with all your might to create, through the power of the word of God, genuine love, spiritual communion, and durable bonds among individuals. This is your task. And this is the task that Baha'is in every continent of the world, in every nation, whether it be a nation currently in peace or currently going through the trials of many trials of war, different tribulations which humans are suffering, the Baha'is are turning to their neighbors, serving and trying to put into practice the words of Baha'u'lláh and the example of Abdu'l-Bahá. One of the missions, one of the visits that Abdu'l-Bahá made when he came to North America is he visited the Lake Mahon conferences that had been meeting annually since 1895. There were conferences on international arbitration, and they had many leaders, political and philosophical leaders from North America and also from around the world. Prime ministers of Canada, future presidents would come here to discuss how international arbitration, how it could avoid the threat of war, because it was clear that in Europe things were building up towards a terrible conflagration. Abdu'l-Bahá gave the key address in 1812, and he was there 4 days, and a very busy schedule. He spoke of the teachings of Baha'u'lláh, of how we needed to embrace the oneness of mankind, and how simply signing a treaty, though as important as it is, does not bring about peace. The night after he gave the talk, he gathered with a few of the representatives who were there, and he spoke of the story of the Congress of the Rats and Mice. Now, it's a well-known story. You've probably heard it or seen cartoons of it. The rats and the mice get together because they have a problem, that the cat is attacking them, and they can never hear the cat because the cat is very quiet. And so they decide, what do we have to do in order to make sure of our well-being? And it is decided, well, the cat needs to have a bell placed on it. So that was a grand idea. And the discussion continued, and how would the bell be, and what kind of a chain should it have, and what kind of a leather collar, and what type of bell, and they discuss it. And then eventually, after discussing, they've agreed what kind of a bell the cat is going to have, who's going to make it, how it's going to be made, everything. And then the point was raised by one of the participants: who is going to place the bell on the cat? And suddenly there were no volunteers. Well, certainly I can't do that, no one else. And it's somewhat humorous, but also somewhat sad, because the change has to come in each one of us. It's fine saying, oh, these are the grand ideas. So what he said is that the words belong to everyone. We all agree. We want peace. We want international understanding. We want justice. But deeds have to be in agreement with what our words say. And there's many writings in the faith regarding this, and of course, and philosophers have spoken about it. So he was saying that it's fine to have these conferences, but men's and women's hearts need to be changed. And sure enough, just 2 years after that talk, the terrible Great War, as it was called then, later it was called World War I, and other nations have called it by other names, occurred with the massacre, the mechanized massacre of millions and millions, the destruction of cities, a great tragedy. Abdu'l-Bahá continued his advice, his letters. During that time, he was in great danger. He was able to safeguard because of the help that he had given and the advice in establishing farming communities in the River Jordan. And he was able to store food for times of need so that famine was averted. For which he was given knighthood by British, though he never used the term that he received that title. Once the Parliament of Man is established and its constitution parts organized, the governments of the world, having entered into a covenant of eternal friendship, will have no need of keeping large standing armies and navies. Then these huge sums will be diverted to other more useful channels. Pauperism will disappear. Knowledge will increase. The victories of peace will be sung by poets and bards. Knowledge will improve the conditions, and mankind will be rocked in the cradle of felicity and bliss. So this is the vision that we have to share, the vision we have to hold dear in our hearts. And in times of great trouble, as humanity has gone through in the past, we must make sure that that vision is kept strong. It's clear. The promised peace will come. Afterwards, there was a gathering. The Hague Conventions had started earlier, and there was an organization for a durable peace set up after World War I, and Abdu'l-Bahá wrote 2 tablets to the Convention of the Hague that was preparing for the establishment of the League of Nations. And in 1920, the League of Nations was established. President Wilson spearheaded it. He was aware of many of the Baha'i teachings because his daughter was a Baha'i. He himself was not, and I'm not saying that he was perfect, but he did have a vision of moving this forward. His suggestions were mostly not adopted, and unfortunately, even the United States never accepted to enter the League of Nations. So the League of Nations, though it was founded with great hope to avoid future war, the agreement of Versailles after World War I put the losers of that war, Germany, Austria, in such debt that it created the social conditions and unemployment and hyperinflation that eventually led to the Second World War. Abdu'l-Bahá passed away in 1921, and a young man his grandson, Shoghi Effendi, who was at that time studying at Cambridge, learning how to translate Baha'i writings in an appropriate way. He became guardian and led the Baha'is through many decades. Though it is premature to try and endeavor to foresee on what basis various nations would be represented on any international council or in any international form of government, it is clear that from the Baha'i standpoint, it could only be carried out on the basis of true justice. Shoghi Effendi was truly incredible. While he was developing the World Center, he was writing books, he was translating, he had so much correspondence with Baha'is from all over the world, establishing, because he knew that the development of the Baha'i community required the establishment of the Universal House of Justice. And this required the establishment of national houses of justice. There's this lovely, he spoke of the wonderful shrine that is in the gardens below the House of Justice, where the greatest holy leaf, on top it has the dome, which symbolizes the House of Justice, and the columns symbolize the national assemblies, and the bases represents the Baha'i community and the local assemblies. So he was tireless. I mean, he did not stop until, as a fairly young man in 57, he passed away. But World War II came. The League of Nations was not able to stop it, and again, mass destruction, great horrors throughout the world. And of course, we know that in the end, the war in the Pacific ended with the horrific detonation of atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But out of the ashes of that, and this is like a cycle of triumph and disasters, arose the United Nations with the idea that this war should be no more. Perhaps the lessons of the League of Nations had been learned, and now we would come together as one. We know that hasn't been the case, that there have been many wars since then, none at a really worldwide level, but the instability is still there. With the establishment of the United Nations, encouraged by Shoghi Effendi, the Baha'is established the Baha'i International Community. It's one of the first NGOs to be chartered in the United Nations. It has affiliates in over 180 countries and is continually giving guidance to the deliberations of the United Nations. And even though on the political level, the United Nations hasn't been successful in avoiding peace, we do know that in other things like UNICEF, like aiding refugees, the World Health Organization, the Food and Agriculture Organization, there are many international collaborations, the meetings on the rights of women, human rights. United Nations has been a very powerful, positive force, and it is better that we have it than we don't. Unfortunately, the power of veto that the 5 permanent members of the Security Council have meant that if the UN has been powerless to stop wars, if any of the members of the Security Council do not wish it to act. The House of Justice was elected in 1963. There were 6 years when the Baha'i community was led by the hands of the cause, who were chief stewards, appointed stewards of the Baha'i faith a little bit prior to the Guardian's passing, and in an act of selfless love, when the House of Justice was elected, they requested the Baha'is that they did not wish to be elected, be considered eligible for election, because they wished to be the very first to rise to serve them. We have such a debt of gratitude, and those of us who have known a hand of the cause know what that is. So since the establishment of the House of Justice has been building the buildings of the Ark on the mountain of God, on Mount Carmel, and writing, guiding, establishing messages to the world, to the peoples of the world, and to Baha'is, and guiding us on this path towards the promised great peace that we are working towards. And then when they have been asked about, well, when is it coming? This is one letter from 74. All we know is that the lesser and most great peace will come. Their exact dates, we do not know. The same is true as regards to the possibility of a future war. We cannot state dogmatically it will or will not take place. So what is our role? To do the best we can to foster international understanding, to help change hearts one at a time, in meeting by meeting, so that possibly, hopefully, we can bring about this next transition to a new version 3.0 of international organization without the great tragedies that have preceded the establishment of the previous organizations, or the current and previous. Again, from the House of Justice. The Baha'i writings about world peace envisage the most great peace coming as the culmination of two distinct processes. These are the ones I've been talking about, which unfold gradually over a lengthy period. One of these concerns the growth and development of the Baha'i community, with the evolution of the administrative order and its efflorescence in the world order of Bahá'u'lláh. The other process, the subject of this memorandum, is associated with the developments of the wider society, notably the attainment of the unity of nations and the establishment of the lesser peace. These are two parallel processes. So Baha'is can contribute, but we are not the ones who will establish the lesser peace. The lesser peace is established by the governments. And there will become a time when Baha'is are much more influential in government. But the lesser peace will come, and then eventually the greater peace. The great peace towards which, and this is a message from collected messages, to which the people of goodwill throughout the centuries have inclined their hearts, which seers and poets for countless generations have expressed their vision, and for which from age to age the sacred scriptures of mankind constantly held the promise, is now at long last within the reach of nations. I think they're telling us it won't be long. We've been waiting a long time. We have to exert ourselves. For the first time in history, it is possible for everyone to view the entire planet with all its myriad diversified peoples in one perspective. World peace is not only possible, but inevitable. It is the next stage in the evolution of this planet. In the words of one great thinker, the planetization of mankind. UN has continued promoting ideas. There is a university for peace in Costa Rica, which was established in 1980. And I'm coming to the end of my time, so I try not to go over. A very important document, The Promise of World Peace, was written by the House of Justice in 1985 and sent to leaders of thought, political leaders. It's a beautiful document, full of promise, full of practical steps that need to be taken. A paralyzing contradiction has developed in human affairs. On the one hand, people of all nations proclaim not only their readiness, but their longing for peace and harmony, for an end to the harrowing apprehensions tormenting their daily lives. On the other, uncritical assent is given to the proposition that human beings are incorrigibly selfish and aggressive, and thus incapable of erecting a social system progressive, peaceful, dynamic, and harmonious. That contradiction means many people don't even try. Many people say, what is the point? We're always going to be like this. And that idea saps the strength, enthusiasm, and vision. We need to believe in the inherent nobility of humanity with the right education and the right preparation. And that idea needs to be spread, and we can reinforce it through our institute process, through our prayers, our devotions, our children's classes, our youth groups, our study circles, and supporting others of similar like-minded. It talks here about various steps, but I don't want to take too long here. It talks about the inevitability of peace. And this final paragraph I'll focus on. Beloved friends, the devoted efforts that you and your like-minded collaborators are making to build communities founded on spiritual principles, to apply those principles for the betterment of your society, and to offer the insights arising, these are the surest ways you can hasten the fulfillment of the promise of world peace. And there we have it. The House of Justice very clearly lays out, we long for peace. Well, we have our to-do list. And very, very recently, there was the Summit of the Future just last month in the UN. It did not get a lot of coverage, but the Baha'i international community wrote a very special document called Embracing Interdependence. And it says we're facing a profound opportunity and a virtual imperative. And the task before us is to put interdependence, understanding that no one's peace is possible without the peace of everyone else. We are interdependent on this planet, and we have to work together. And this is just showing the work that we're doing around the world, in villages, communities, on islands, in every single continent, in Africa, in South America, throughout Asia, in Europe, in North America, in Australasia and Oceania. You can see here, going around clockwise, you can see a children's class, a youth group. Bottom right, there is a study circle, something from the Ruhi process and the Institute process. And bottom left, we have a devotional. So I'm going to leave you then with, just shortly before Baha'u'lláh passed away, he was visited by Edward Granville Brown, who was a Orientalist, a scholar from Cambridge, and had been studying the Babis and the Baha'is, and requested and was granted permission to visit Baha'u'lláh. And this was just a couple of years before Baha'u'llah's passing. And what he recorded was, among the many things Baha'u'lláh said to him, was this: that all nations should become one in faith, and all men as brothers, that the bonds of affection and unity between the sons of men should be strengthened, that diversity of religion should cease, differences of race be annulled. What harm is there in this? Yet, so it shall be. These fruitless strifes, these ruinous wars shall pass away, and the most great peace shall come. So, thank you very much. And I'll just leave this last slide up for reference, and I'm happy to go back. So thank you. Thanks very much for your attention. Shall I take the slides off now so that we can see each other, Gurus?
Sure.
I'll do that. I'll remove the slides. Sure. Let's see how I do that.
I mean, if it's possible, don't worry about it.
I'm sure it's possible. I just, right now, I seem to remember there was something.
You can unshare it.
If I go to share, there should be unshare, no?
Yes.
Anybody know where it is? Because right now I don't see
All
it.
the way on the top.
Right at the top, it says my slides. So I'll just click.
Yours could be on the bottom of the green glass.
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay, here we are.
You see such wonderful participants we have. We are interested in peace, and they know how to deal with this particular machinery, which I'm having difficulty. By the way, I would like to welcome Mr. Charles Fitzsimmons. After a long time, I pay my respect to him. Thank you for being here. Tony, what a wonderful talk that was. It was comprehensive, it was full of hope, and we need hope in order to be able to establish peace. And you talked about peace and justice together. Maybe a little later you need to address that. I really, really appreciate it. I would like to open the floor for a Q&A. Would you like me to stop sharing, or would you like your responses to be recorded?
I certainly don't mind. Whatever the custom is, I'm quite happy for it to be recorded.
Sure. Okay. Friends, please feel free to ask questions, short questions, so we would be able to respond to almost everyone. Thanks again, Tony. It was wonderful. If there is 5 minutes left at the end of it, I need you to tell us how you became a Baha'i. I know it's not customary in the firesides to ask such a question, but I would like to ask that question a little later. Friends, go ahead. Welcome, Mr. Tahirzadeh. So maybe I will ask the first question, if it is possible. You talked about justice and combining peace and justice together. Can you address that a little bit more? Because justice is such an unbelievable gift. And we think that if there's justice, peace would be immediately possible. But can you explain the connection between peace and justice, please?
It is hard to envisage exactly how things will be in the future. It is clear from the Baha'i writings how important both these principles are. We think of the hidden word, the most beloved of all things in my sight is justice. And we know we're encouraged to work towards peace between nations. The underlying, there seems to be two aspects to the revelation. One is the development of the well-being of society as a whole, and the other the moving towards oneness, and the other aspect is the spiritual development of each individual, bringing us individually closer to God and to each other, and how those two things will help bring about peace. It's hard to envisage. I'm sure there will be quotes that some people remember. None come to mind right now, but it clearly the well-being of humanity has to be one which justice is extolled in so many places. And when there is justice, how can there not be peace? I mean, it has to be, we must have peace in order to have well-being of humanity. So I don't know if that's very satisfactory. Perhaps other people here can elaborate on that topic. And thank you.
You're muted, Farouz. Still are. Farouz, we can't hear you.
How about now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So before we respond to the questions, I just wanted to read what Olga wrote from Russia. If I know I can change myself, I will never lose hope. Probably others can do the same and create the change if possible. Thank you, Olga. We really appreciate it. Dr. Etemad, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Martinez. This was truly a delightful talk. Very, very hopeful. My question is, with all of these wonderful, beautiful statements we're getting from different Baha'i international communities, from New York to Addis Ababa to Geneva, Indonesia, is there any way that these communication can be local to the governors, to the mayors of the cities, to general public, even, I don't know, even maybe to CNN and the news media? I was just reading the latest communication of Baha'i international community from New York. It is so beautiful, especially for today's world. And I'm always a little bit sad and frustrated that the general knowledge of people is not aware of these documents.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that comment. Of course, I think we all feel that. Some people are very good at organizing events and saying, oh, look, we've just received a message from the Baha'i international community. And perhaps some communities will organize a press conference or a talk where they discuss it, and they invite some local dignitaries to review it. And certainly we did that with the Promise of World Peace. That was done quite well at an international level, and with an attempt to bring it to the attention to more people. And that public relations or the outreach work is very valuable, and some people know how to do it well. I think what we all can do is, as Olga was saying, change ourselves, network so that we exemplify the change we want to see. We can invite our neighbors. We can talk to them, love them, care for them, as Abdu'l-Bahá did. We can decide, depending on our conditions, can we assist the children, invite children, youth, organize study circles, wherever we are. And if we cannot, because of our conditions, we can certainly pray for the advancement of this. I know it's slow, and we feel like we would like to see faster change. I don't know. I think we can just start from where we are now and see what are the best things that we can do, and know that that is what in the end is going to bring about change, lasting change.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Dr. Etemad. We go to Russia. Hi, Olga. Please go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you. Mr. Martinez, or maybe any other people who gathered here today, and if you have any insights. Many people around the world today are pessimistic, and they don't believe that change is possible, that the world can change for the better. How can we reassure them?
I'll attempt to give a few ideas. Thank you so much. That I find that with some of my friends, talking to them. I think there's different approaches. It depends on what our value system is. How do we, if we give a lot of value to the words of the prophets, maybe the words of the Bible, perhaps we find value to the prophecies, such as what were discussed in A Thief in the Night, by William Sears. I find fascinating. I find this issue of how it is that it's almost like the world is preparing itself gradually for its oneness. All the means are coming about. The telecommunication, the means of achieving it. There is the often used argument about the developments of evolution of human society, from the family through the tribe to the nation state to the international organizations, and the next step in that evolution is global, and this idea of the planetization of the of humanity. But we also see that all our problems, whether it's climate, whether it's economic, whether it's food distribution, energy, contamination, world peace, security, all of these things are worldwide. There is no nation that can say, well, I don't care what happens to the other nations. I want to solve myself. I want to solve our situation here. We're beyond that. And this idea that has been mentioned a lot in the guidance we receive, that the nations are still at a stage of adolescence. It's about me. It's about what I need, what I want. But we know that we grow, we become mature, and we realize that we need that our well-being depends on the well-being of others, and that by helping others, we ourselves live in a better place. I don't see that there's any other solution. The solution has to be global. It has to be one kind, the whole of mankind. The problem is that, and what you've mentioned is, do you believe it can happen? And there are many people who don't believe so, basically. Humanity has always been like this. And I would say, well, what is about this idea of looking about the social development? Look at the technological development. We are being forced by other conditions, by crises, to deal with it collectively. We have to collaborate. Now, some people will say, well, we will not collaborate, and we may just not survive, which is a horrible idea. If you look just at the most elementary form of life, how you can have a region that's all life is destroyed, cement a meter thick or more is placed across vast pieces of land, and then it's left. Little by little, somehow plants go through. Somehow a little tiny little thing will poke through the cement, and after many years trees appear, and little by little all of that goes back to nature. You know, maybe it's a simplistic view, but if life can find a way, I think we can find a way to live in peace. And I don't see what other options we have. We have to, and thanks, we have the guidings of the writings and the guidance of Baha'u'lláh on how to bring it about. I don't know if I really was able to answer your question, Olga, but I thank you for it. And we'll just continue thinking and responding to the hearts of those people who are around us, who we love, and cheering them and giving them hope in whatever way that we can.
Olga, I just wanted to tell you that it is incredibly heartwarming to see you joining us from Russia. Thank you.
Glad I could join. It's just it's not always convenient to join at this time.
I know, and that's why it makes it even more heartwarming. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for organizing this.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't go away, because when we're going to say prayers at the end, if you're still there, we would like to ask you to say prayers. Thank you, Olga. Appreciate it. Mr. Taherzadeh, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Martinez. Well, thank you very much. It's both. Well, it is a question, but it will, let me explain my question. It follows along the lines of Olga, dear Olga, as concerns in this form, that at the end of that the message, the promise of world peace, in the last paragraph that was displayed, we read that the Universal House of Justice mentions that if or when these spiritual when spiritual principles are applied to the conditions of society, then world peace will become possible. So my concern is, many people do not believe in spiritual principles. Many people don't know what are spiritual principles. A lot of people, like Olga was telling us, some people don't even believe there is spirit. And so now we are in a difficult place. And then the source of spiritual principles, Baha'u'lláh says that the source of these is God himself. Now, Abdu'l-Bahá, the center of the covenant of Baha'u'lláh, in his tablets of the divine plan, and I believe in this, at least in the, especially in the second, right at the beginning of these tablets, especially the second one, the first paragraph of the second tablet of divine plan, he mentions God many times, 6, 7 times, in the launching of his plan, his worldwide plan. So there's this correlation that the source, Abdu'l-Bahá says, the source is God, and the source is the heavenly kingdom, and so forth. And now the Universal House of Justice says spiritual principles need to be applied. So it seems that, and of course, Shawqi Effendi, the guardian of the cause of God, in his message, The Advent of Divine Justice, he also constantly emphasizes the twofold process, the transformation of the Baha'i community based on the revelation of Baha'u'lláh, which will in turn enable the second process, the transformation of society. So it seems that the source is God, and then from that source come the spiritual principles, and these need to be known or recognized or acknowledged, or some allegiance has to be established to the adoption, the recognition, adoption of these spiritual principles. So, my question is, this is a very, is very profound and fundamental, but as Olga was saying, most people have difficulty believing in God or in spiritual powers or spiritual principles. So now we're in a difficult, and other solutions, meaning the humanitarian ideas and projects, these are all limited. They sound very good, but they have not produced any result, any tangible results. So this is a very peculiar and very difficult situation. I don't know. What are your feelings? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Riaz. Yeah, okay. There. Okay. You've probably all heard of this is a joke. You know, somebody going around, arriving at a new place, and he said, look, I want to go to a particular spot. And the people just look at each other and say, I'm sorry, you can't get there from here. I don't know if you've ever heard that. But the reason why it's funny and it's almost impossible is obviously, well, if you can't get there from here, then where do I have to go so I can get there from somewhere else? You know, so we start. What I guess is we start our journey wherever we are, and if that where we are is a lack of understanding of spirit or God or of the nature of revelation, that's where we are, and that's the journey that God has determined for us, because I'm sure that he will help and guide everyone if they just turn and they try to follow it. And I guess many people don't. The lady who taught me the faith was brought to the faith through a great personal tragedy, and she was looked after by Baha'is who had also gone through a similar tragedy, and she learned of the teachings of Baha'u'lláh and became enamored of Baha'u'lláh and of the Baha'i revelation. But there was this problem. She didn't believe in God. She understood, she wanted to be a Baha'i. She loved the teachings of Baha'u'lláh and the social teachings and everything about the Baha'i community. but prayer made no sense at all. And the idea of God made no sense. So the friends that were helping her and guiding her was said, well, okay, you like Baha'u'lláh? Well, one of Baha'u'llah's teachings is that every day you need to say a prayer. So you doesn't matter, you can do this one, this one, or this one, but you can say this one. So every day at midday, just say this prayer. And she said, well, Baha'u'lláh said I should do it. And I was in love with Baha'u'lláh. I started saying this prayer. And it changed her. Something changed. I realized that there are some people who find it very hard. Maybe their experiences of what they understand as spirituality, it's been shown to them in such a way which says that cannot be good. That makes no sense. And so they have a very fixed idea of what that is. One of my dearest friends is someone who has never really accepted God. Maybe he's an agnostic, maybe he's an atheist, but he is one of the most spiritual people I know, one of the most loving. I don't understand that. I think God must inspire him in his own way, and he understands it in his way, and he serves others, and he's sacrificial, and it's our understanding doesn't fully grasp it. But if somebody is working for the well-being of humanity, they are doing the work that we are trying to encourage, and they are our brothers and sisters, as everyone is, but especially those dear souls like this. And what I found, one way for those of us when we're talking to people and the spirituality is like a barrier, or that I try to appeal to universals. You know, like the Greek philosophers spoke of goodness, truth, beauty. And there's been groups like the transcendentalists and various groups who kind of focus on this. This goes back to Plato, Aristotle kind of thing. Most of us identify that that's good. Truth is good. Goodness, being good, is good. I mean, that's something that we should strive for. Beauty is wonderful. We live in a world of truth and beauty, and where good is being done one to other. That would be wonderful. Now we see those great qualities as coming from the one supreme creator, and it makes sense. So all the perfections come from the ultimate source of all perfections. Others don't, but at least they can agree and then say, well, how do we pursue it? How do we do good? So if people are coming from a humanitarian position of wanting to serve others, I don't see it blocks them. I think invite them, come together. We see it like this, but join us in serving humanity, in educating children, in promoting greater unity. No doubt this is bringing about good things for our community. Again, I don't know that really answers, but these are just a few thoughts that came up while you were speaking, and thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. Gary?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. I've been having a few thoughts on the subject. First of all, a couple of things quickly. It was a wonderful talk, Tony. It takes us back to a lot of the fundamentals that we all know about, but we have to be reminded every once in a while of. And just quickly, an old friend of mine, Charles Fitzsimmons. Hi, Charles. Love to see you. Just quickly, something I've been thinking about along these lines. We're looking at the condition of the world, the state that it's in, and wondering how we're going to get from where we are to the most great peace. And gee, we got to get all these people in the world, or a large part of them, on the same page as the Baha'is. And I started thinking about it, and I've made it a lot simpler for myself. The local assemblies, the national spiritual assemblies, the Universal House of Justice, they have to concern themselves with the larger bodies that they're responsible for. I'm only responsible for myself. And the only change that I have to make in the world is to myself, to help this world advance and help others advance. And I'll read 2 short quotes, and then that'll be the end. The first one's by Shoghi Effendi. Not by the force of numbers, not by the mere exposition of a set of new and noble principles, not by an organized campaign of teaching, no matter how worldwide and elaborate in its character, not even by the staunchness of our faith or the exaltation of our enthusiasm, can we ultimately hope to vindicate in the eyes of a critical and skeptical age the supreme claims of the Abha revelation. One thing, and only one thing, will unfailingly and alone secure the undoubted triumph of this sacred cause. And here it is, namely, the extent to which our own inner lives and private character mirror forth in their manifold aspects the splendor of those eternal principles proclaimed by Baha'u'lláh. And lastly, Baha'u'lláh, one of the principles that we should before I mention Baha'u'llah's quote, that I think I should manifest in my life is the quality of unity. Baha'u'lláh says, "Ye are the fruits of one tree and the leaves of one branch. Deal ye one another with the utmost love and harmony, with friendliness and fellowship. He who is the day star of truth beareth me witness." So powerful is the light of unity that it can illuminate the whole earth. The one true God, he who knoweth all things, himself testifieth to the truth of these words.
Thank you very much, Gary. Of course, well put, wonderful way to summarize what's in our hearts and the work that we have ahead of us as well.
Sorry, Firouz John, I have one question, but I cannot put my electricity hand up. This is because new iPad I have is just with permission. I have one question.
Sure. Give me 1 second, please, Faridejan. Now, Tony, are you? Would you like to share anything about what Gary just read for us? Beautiful things are in chat, which I will read a little later. Faridejan is joining us from Chicago. So, shall I get that question?
Yes, if I'll answer what you said, and then of course, Faride, please. Gary, thank you. I I don't think there's much to say. Our Jewish and Christian friends would say Amen. It's you're saying what we're feeling, and of course the words I think summarize what we need to focus on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Also, I wanted to say, Mr. Khan, we're here in case you would like to make a comment or whatever. You know that you're always very welcome here. You're a very important part of this discussion. So please feel free to share anything you wish. But we go to Faride Jun. Faride Jun, where are you?
I am here, loving you. Thank you so much, Tony. You said so beautiful. Sorry, I didn't turn on my picture because I don't have my lipstick and my perfume. Sorry. And Chicago is windy. Chicago windy. I didn't go to the temple. 5:45 get dark. I'm not used with this weather. My question that you, first of all, I really enjoy it. Thank you very much. But my question that if I don't mistake, you said you saw the man, he went to the moon. But because I was in Hawaii, I live, and 7 years ago, the man came to a big public meeting. He went to the moon, the first one. And I sent the picture to WhatsApp of the Kharum Firuze Jan. If you open your WhatsApp, you see the picture I sent to you. You can show them. This is the same man, you saw it. Because I was so excited, I was youth. I told him that was prophecy from all the religion of the past. People go to the moon, the time the promise ought to come. Baha'u'lláh, the promise from all the religion. He was so moved. He loved the Baha'i faith. But I want to say this is the same man, you saw it. Even he gave his picture to me and he signed it by name. Firuzja, you can show that picture. I will appreciate it. No more question. Love everybody.
Thank you, Faride Jun. We appreciate your enthusiasm. Thank you very much. Jalal Jan, before we listen to you, Tony, would you like to? Tony, I have to admit in front of everybody who's here that I cannot copy the picture on my WhatsApp and put it and share a screen and put it here. If I could do that, I would have been like you, but I'm not. So Faride Jun will forgive me. But go ahead if you need to respond to what Faride Jun said.
So I can just say that during that period of the Apollo program, there were a number of people who went to the moon. Some walked on it, some went in orbit around it. And this person whose name I put up there, Schmidt, he was, I think it was the last Apollo program that went to the moon, and he was the only scientist who was there. So, and he took this photograph, and he came and he gave a talk, and I was very excited because that picture had been so important. I went up at the end and I said, "Could I please shake your hand?" And he looked at me and he thought that was very strange. And I said, "I want to thank you for the photo you took." And he just thought that was odd. I mean, you could see he shook my hand, and I was very happy I'd shaken his hand and said thank you for taking that. And he didn't seem to appreciate why it was so special for me. But anyway, I'm sorry, I don't know who the other astronaut might have been that Faride had spoken to. But if at some time that picture is there, I can certainly check. But the person I spoke to was, well, the name was on the slide, and it is Schmidt. And I right now
maybe he was Smith or John, but the picture and the background picture, their name, and I was so happy. I will be in the part of the prophecy, the promise one come. I talk about Baha'u'lláh and Baha'i faith. I was huge excited, and he was so appreciated. He said it's true. It was the prophecy, and he went in the moon, he walked, and he saw that spirituality. And I'm saying, thank Baha'u'lláh. What day we born? In the day of Baha'u'lláh, the day people go to the moon, we see everything. In the second century of the Baha'i faith, and the faith of Baha'u'lláh, 500,000 years, in future, the people will be envy of us. We are early. You are early Baha'i. All this Baha'i or everybody in the, I see they're early Baha'i. My God, and your people be envy of all of you. Thank you so much, Tony. Again, I get excited. Goodbye.
Ferouz, I found a picture. I don't know if this is the same one or not, but is that him?
Yes, I think the picture that Faride Jun sent me says footprints on the moon, and although they have the same attire, let's say, but the face does not correspond to this face.
Okay.
But thank you so much. Probably I should send it to Tony, and Tony can share. I have a few things that I need to. First of all,
sorry, Firuzjan. The last thing, I didn't send the picture of the back of the picture. I will send information to you, his name, everything there, and send to Tony. Okay, love you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Olga wrote, beauty resonates with hearts. Heart will believe when the mind cannot grasp something. There are so many things. Mr. Khan, thank you very much for your message. We will deal with it a little later. Also, Dr. Etamad says, thank you, Gary. I carry this quote with me all the time and read it whenever I see a group of Baha'is. So we're going to be here till tomorrow, and I will enjoy that. You're more than welcome to stay with us. Jalal Jan, go ahead, please. Unmute yourself, Jalal.
Hello. Thank you. I just want to say thank you for the beautiful presentation or talk or explanation. I am with you because of my substitute mother, Aqdas Javid, and it's because of her I'm very grateful to hear the Mr. Tony Martinez and everything that was mentioned makes a lot of sense, and very beautiful, very correct, and I'm very grateful to even speak. We are the subjects matter. And I'm sorry. It is a gentleman earlier was mentioning allegiance, and it is duty only makes sense because there's a compelling towards the unity of mankind, and in a very orderly manner. There are SOPs for everything, and it is only logical, I think, to move mankind. Very logical. But the good news is that it is executed beautifully, and I even when I think of these stories that or the words that I'm hearing, even if I were to try to explain them to any other commoner, that would not make sense. And that is genuinely, I'm very thankful that I'm actually even able or allowed to utter these words in your presence. I'm very thankful. So I'm going to not talk anymore, and thank you.
Thank you, Jalal. Tony, it seems that you know Jalal because I don't know Jalal.
I don't know if we've met, but he just did he not speak of Mrs. Javid? Are we speaking of the Aqdas? Are we speaking of the same Aqdas? Because you know, I wanted to dedicate, and I'm sorry that I didn't actually mention it at the beginning of the talk. We are talking of Aqdas Javid. Is that Jalal? Is that who you're talking about?
Yes. To be more specific, her mother that passed away. It was a dedication. Her mother passed away, and that's when she had mentioned that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Your heart is eloquent. And this brings us back again to what Olga said about how the beauty and truth, what we're saying, how it resonates in hearts. And I don't know. I started off talking about you know, the debt and the thanks that we owe to First Nations, and that their deep abiding understanding of oneness and unity is very powerful and very inspiring. And an elder advised me and said, you know, people with Western education, they think they're ruled by the head, but we have to be ruled by our hearts, and the head has to be the servant of the heart. And that seems very much in tune with the spiritual path that we're trying to follow. And again, the language that many Indigenous people use is different, but the message and the message of their heart is we are one. And gradually, I think we're going to be finding more and more paths coming together. I'm a little concerned. I'm sorry that I've taken a little bit too long. And I know, Firuz, you were interested in, you know, us starting at 8:30 and saying some prayers. And I imagine at 9, some people will need to leave. And it would be wonderful.
Tony, don't worry. Olga is here. We wanted her to say a prayer. She's still with us. And I think it was wonderful to see Jalal for the first time. And I have left my email address and chat in case you want to be invited to this fireside. We would be very happy to do that. Tony, please continue. This is like prayer, so no problem. Go for it.
Well, I think I've responded to and thanked the people for their comments, and I really appreciate it. Of course, when we share things from the writings, it's going to be inspiring, and we're just trying to understand it. So we're on this path together. We just do what we can, and I've really appreciated the input and the feedback. It is wonderful, and again, thank you very much, Bruce, for bringing us together.
You're very welcome. I wanted to read Mr. Sarwar Khan left, but he is a very good friend of this fireside. He's a friend of the faith, and he comes and joins us and always comments. He said, "What I experience in these meetings is sheer love. In today's world where chaos is in abundance, my prayers are that the world understands the message of love preached by Baha'u'lláh, Abdu'l-Bahá, and Shoghi Effendi." Unfortunately, Mr. Sarwar Khan is not here, so hopefully we will see him next week. Friend, is there any other questions? The reason why I'm asking this is because we dedicate this fireside and the prayers afterwards to Mrs. Aqdas Javid. Mrs. Aqdas Javid was the one who had one of the longest fireside, as far as maybe 45 years, and one of the most successful firesides in Canada. And she passed away some years back. And yeah, Neely, I know you know her. And we thought we would dedicate tonight's meeting to Mrs. Aqdas Javid. And immediately when I shared that with Tony, Tony accepted it. Now, I want to share this memory with you. Probably it's not wise, but I don't always do wise things. When Dr. Javid and Mrs. Javid went from Iran to visit the guardian of the Baha'i faith, Dr. Javid was hoping to continue his education and become a specialist in Germany. So he said to his wife, Aqdas Khanum, please don't get into a discussion with the guardian and all of these things, because he might ask you to go pioneering. And you know, pioneerings that Baha'is always go are Africa and Southeast Asia and things like that. So Aqdas Khanum, although she was a very feisty woman, and probably she doesn't like in the next word that I'm sharing this with you, Aqdas Khanum did not go very close to the guardian. And as she was passing by, she looked at him, and the guardian told him, Aqdas Khanum, study English. She never understood what the guardian said. And Dr. Javid never understood the significance of that. When they arrived in Tehran, after a few weeks, they received an offer from Canada for them to go there. So Dr. Javid will continue his studies. And by then, she had already started to study English. We offer all of this love and your participation, your kind participation in this firesides. I will dedicate it to her, and with your permission, maybe we should start to say prayers. If you don't mind, we'll ask Olga to say a prayer. I'm grateful I can understand what you're saying in English. We are very grateful that you're here and you actually say prayer in Russian. Pina is here. Mr. Perimal is here. Tony is here, and he can hopefully say prayers in Spanish. I don't know what prayers Jalal know, but anyways, you're more than welcome, all of you, to participate. Please, Olga, go ahead.
О Боже, освежи и обрадуй мой дух, очисти мое сердце, воспламени мои силы, все свои дела вверяю в руки Твои. Ты мой водитель и мое прибежище. Я более не буду печалиться и огорчаться, но стану счастливым и радостным. О Боже, отныне я не буду тревожиться и не позволю невзгодам нарушить покой мой. Я не буду обращать внимание на житейские неприятности. О Боже, Ты более мне друг, чем я сам себе. Я посвящаю себя Тебе, о Господи. Абдул-Bahá.
Faruz, if I can quickly share a picture of Aqdas and which I have here, and I'd like to say this
Thank you.
prayer.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Aqdas, I was fortunate to go to many of her Wednesday night firesides. It was wonderful. I'd like to say this prayer as we think of dear Aqdas. O thou provider, O thou forgiver, a noble soul hath ascended unto the kingdom of reality and hastened from the mortal world of dust to the realm of everlasting glory. Exalt the station of this recently arrived maidservant, and attire this long-standing maidservant with the new and wondrous robe. O thou peerless Lord, grant thy forgiveness and tender care, so that this soul may be admitted into the retreats of thy mysteries, and may become an intimate companion in the assemblage of splendors. Thou art the giver, the bestower, the ever-loving. Thou art the pardoner, the tender, the most powerful.
I had the blessing of attending the fireside of Aqdas Javid Khanum in her place in Canada. And I met her again at the summer school, Baha'i summer school in Ontario. And I dedicate this prayer to her. Oh my God, thou forgiver of sins, bestower of gifts, dispeller of affliction. Oh my God, thou forgiver of sins, bestower of gifts, dispeller of affliction. Verily, I beseech thee to forgive the sins of such as have abandoned the physical garment and have ascended to the spiritual world, and have ascended to the spiritual world. Oh my Lord, purify them from trespasses, dispel their sorrows, and change the tides. Oh my Lord, purify them from trespasses, dispel their sorrows, and change their darkness into light. Cause them to enter the garden of happiness. Cleanse them with the most pure water, and grant them to behold thy splendor song, the loftiest smile. Cause them to enter the garden of happiness. Cleanse them with the most pure water, and grant them to behold thy splendor song, the loftiest crown. Abdu'l-Bahá, Abdu'l-Bahá.
هوالله بخشنده یزدانان، این بندگان آزادگان بودند و این جانهای تابان به نور هدایت روشن و درخشنده گشتند. جامی سرشار از باده محبت نوشیدن و اسراری بی پایان از اوتار معرفت شنیدن. دل به تو بستن و از دام بیگانگی جستن و به یگانگی تو پیوستن. این نفوس نفیس را انیس لاهوتیان فرما و در حلقه خاصان درآ و در خلوتگاه عالم بالا محرم اسرار کن و مستغرق بحر انوار فرما. تویی بخشنده و درخشنده و مهربان. عبدالبها عباس.
Dearest Tara, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it very much. Bob, I sent you a picture of Aqdas with Pina. If you can share it, that would be fantastic. She says that this photo has been taken at the summer school in 2009 in
Oh.
Canada.
Oh,
You remember that?
how nice.
Yes, yes.
She's so beautiful.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Bob. Appreciate it. Pina, such a beautiful picture. Thank you for sharing it. Appreciate it.
If I can just say something.
Please.
And I really want to thank you, Tony, for this wonderful presentation and to honor our beloved sister, Aqdas. One of the things as Baha'is, we should never feel forlorn and not and try our very best not to take on the negative forces that are alive and well in this world. That we must become a force of light, and that we must always realize that all of these things that are going on in the world that don't look like they're heading towards peace we have to truly take that into our heart. And so I just wanted to read this beautiful writing where Baha'u'lláh reminds us of this, and that this that this is the characteristic of humanity today, but we are walking towards that unity, and we're walking towards that place of peace that every human being has a part to play in. He says, and yet it is not the object of every revelation to effect a transformation in the whole character of mankind, a transformation that shall manifest itself both outwardly and inwardly. For if the character of mankind be not changed, the futility of God's universal manifestation would be apparent. So whenever we come across something that is not about peace, it is about disunity, where people would rather have hatred than love, we have to switch it as quick as we can, that this is what we are created for. Truly, Aqdas was like that. When she had a fireside, if she saw somebody walking by her house, she would go out and she'll say, "You're supposed to come to my home tonight." So let's take courage, friends. Let's take courage and realize that this is such a privilege for us. And always to maintain that sense of whatever is not peaceful has an element in there, and our job is to bring it out. So nice to be with all of you this evening. Allah Apa.
Louis, we're very grateful that you're sharing this space with us. I don't know how to thank you. My heart is with you. I love you. We are sisters. And I understand that it takes a lot of courage to come out and attend these meetings and all of that. But you are a very courageous woman. We will look up to you. We love you, and we are very sorry of what has happened.
Thank you so much, Farouz. Yeah. Farouz is referring to the fact that we have lost my youngest daughter. She passed. But I must tell you, she came to me in my dream and she awoke me. She was right in my face. And she said to me, "Oh, Mom, I found a new place and it is so beautiful here." And she woke me. So I am totally at peace with that. Thank you so much, Bruce, for your loving kindness. Yeah, yeah. This was her memorial.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Aziza.
yeah, that was our daughter. Little angel.
Thank you for sharing the picture. I really appreciate it. I know Pina has raised her hand, and Tony has not read a prayer in Spanish yet.
Oh, let's have him do that.
So let us see, Pina John, what's going on?
Is in our Baha'i community in Penang, in Malaysia. We have activities dedicated to the twin birthdays of the Bahá'í and Bahá'u'lláh. It was 2 weeks before the celebrations. And we have this, we visited orphanages, hospitals, donated some things, and we also have art exhibition. The art was open to all, the Baha'is and all from the wider community. And the theme was about the 12 principles of the faith. And we went there every day for our turn to man the arts, to welcome the people. It has been such a wonderful sharing and teaching about the faith. And yesterday, a young lady, I guess she is a student or working nearby, very young. And I was explaining, there was an art about perpetual rebirth. There is a figure of angel emerging from darkness towards the light. And the title is Perpetual Rebirth. And I was telling about the butterfly, the life cycle of butterfly. And she said, I know very well because I work for the butterfly farm.
Oh,
I know that transformation. And then I said, it is also mean that women have the capacity to change the world. And what is that? As a woman, the life giver, the nurturer of life, is that they take care of life. And if they give birth to a child, for example, and this child is a son and is going to grow up, it's not going to send this child to go and fight somebody or kill or be killed.
That's true.
And then she was like, I could see her face. And for that reason, if every woman will do that, what will happen to the world? And she said, there will be peace. And so you see, the women have got a special place to achieve peace. And she was so happy. Oh, I never thought of that, she said. And she was so happy. And I'm so happy myself that this sharing, this such bounty of having this exhibition, that we express the teachings of the faith. And so it's not only that we hope, we try to do something to put into action, and into action that internalize our own life. If we hope for it and think of it and put into action, and then we become assured with it, and there'll be blessings. That's how we can achieve peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Pina, I appreciate it. Mr. Perimal, don't go away after Tony. We would like to ask you to say a prayer, okay? Mr. Perimal, show your face to me, okay? Thank you. Mr. Perimal is coming all the way from Australia. She had to take his wife, so she WhatsApped me and said, I'm taking my wife somewhere, but I'll be back soon. So how the world has become a one country.
Great
Please,
on the side.
please go ahead, Tony.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Just a small excerpt from one of the writings. Sois las estrellas del cielo del entendimiento. La brisa que mueve al amanecer. Las fluyentes aguas de las cuales debe depender la vida misma de todos los hombres.
O my God, O my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal to them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O God, in the endeavor and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, leave them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge, and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily thou art their helper and their Lord. Bahá'u'lláh.
O my God, O forgiver of sins and dispeller of afflictions, O thou who art the pardoner, the merciful, I raise my suppliant hands to thee, tearfully beseeching the court of thy divine essence, to forgive through thy grace and clemency thy handmaiden who had ascended unto the seat of truth. Cause her, O Lord, to be overshadowed by the clouds of thy bounty and favor. Immerse her in the ocean of thy forgiveness and pardon, and enable her to enter that sanctified abode, thy heavenly paradise. Thou art verily the mighty, the compassionate, the generous, the merciful. Abdu'l-Bahá.
Friends, the conquerors on high was here. They were all here, but unfortunately in our screens we can't see them. But Jalal-Jan, I don't know who you are. You're more than welcome to attend our firesides anytime you wish. I wish I could send you an invitation, but I don't have your email address. But anyways, the link is the same every Thursday at 7 o'clock. So join us. It was wonderful to see you. How can I thank you, Tony? It was wonderful. It was just wonderful. Thank you to all. See you next Thursday and the Thursdays after that. Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar, friends. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Tara, thank you. Tara John, thank you. Yes, yes, Bob, go ahead.
Well, Louise will call Farouz, who just chatted to us directly. So, but I don't know how to answer
Farouz
her.
Badian. Okay.
Oh, Furuz Badiyan, I see.
Thank you.
Allow upon everybody.
Allah, but I need to stay because I need to copy the chat. So
Okay.
I'll see you next week. Tony, next time you have to share with us how you became a Baha'i. Don't you ever think we forgot that?
Thank you.
You're welcome. تارا جان قربونم شکل ماهت برم تارا من به فدای تو بشم. مرسی که انقدر قشنگ خوندی عزیزم. خیلی ما تو رو دوست داریم. یک کلمه بگو ما ببینم تو میشنوی.
به فدای محبت قربونت برم من فیروز جان مرسی
We
عزیز
love you.
دلم
قربونت
فدای
برم.
محبتت
عزیزم
مرسی
مرسی
خواهش میکنم
مرسی
خواهش میکنم
عزیزم. قربونت.
ممنون از فیروز عزیز که این برنامه فوق العاده رو در اختیار همه ما گذاشته مرسی
قربونت برم. I love you عزیزم.
love you too bye
Tina,
everyone
love you Tina. Tina, love you.
خیلی
مثل من.
جلسه روحانی خوبی بود فوق‌العاده روحانی
Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. I've never seen Mr. Jalal. Frank, hi Frank.
Kheli Mamnoon, I thank you so much for everything. Thank you. Really, it was beautiful.
Who are you, Frank? Do I have your email address?
Frank, I'll give it to you. It's very simple.
I can't do simple things. I can only write it on the chat, Frank.
I don't know how to do that.
Okay,
I'm so
so don't
sorry.
worry. Go ahead.
But you know what? I know Manaher Marabi. Manaher gave